Hi, this is Shamel Lane, and this video covers the part 2 of making my Learn Something New pages for 2012. So I hope you've had a look at my prep in the first video, and then this will show you everything that I did to finish it. Now, in 2012, I decided I didn't want my album to be a mini book, but I wanted something I could file in my 12 by 12 chronological album for the year. So I went with divided page protectors and made all my entries 4 by 6. I started with a full page, but I kept it really, really simple because I wanted the freedom of, if I ever decided as the pages came together for my album for the year, if I wanted something that would go here, I didn't want to feel like I had to lose something brilliant that I'd spent lots and lots of time on. So I wanted something really simple, and just this one box is decorated with the title. And that way, if I decide that actually there's something just before the beginning of September that would make a really great page in the divided page protector, I'm quite able to just take this out and add that in, and it won't make me lose any sleep if I lose one box. But just something that that works for me in the way that I put my chronological albums together, because I like that flexibility of being able to change things here and there. So then my lessons start on the next box at the top of the page, and they just run from the 1st to the 30th. And in my album, I'm showing you this in an album just on its own today, but in my album I won't have any other 12 by 12s mixed in with this. When you get to September in my book, you'll see all of this, all of Learn Something New together, and then if I have any 12 by 12s, which I do from September, they'll come after this. So you'll get a little bit kind of a preview of September, and then any events that I scrapped in more detail you'll find after this in my album. So I've just spotted where a little sticker is getting folded, so I'll unfold that really quickly. Okay, now, so there are basically 3 different ways that I made the entries. I'm going to show you step by step one of each kind, but as I take you through the album, I'll just point out the 3 different kinds. So I had 2 different styles of photos that I used in the album, either full-size 4 by 6 photos, which is everything on this page, or smaller 3 by 3 squares. So I'll show you that in a minute. So with 4 by 6 photos, I did them one of 2 ways. In this page, this is just 3 entries. So this is the first, the second, and the third. So this is the first way that I did it. One 4 by 6 photo with a 4 by 6 box that coordinates, so that my lesson is over here and that matches this photo. And then this photo goes with this caption, so it's always reading down the page. And I don't do a lot of extra journaling on the cards, because I've kept my little notebook of thoughts all throughout September. I don't really like to duplicate all of that. I still have that notebook, and in all actuality, I'll probably sew a page protector that will fit that little notebook, and I'll end up putting it right in my chronological album with all of this. So I don't feel like I have to write out all the extensive notes. I like keeping my Learn Something New entries to just that one lesson and the photo for the day. So this is one way that I did them, so with the large photo and then the box to coordinate with that lesson. Then this top row shows you the 2 other ways that I made entries. So if I used a square photo, which I'd taken with my phone, I printed those at 3 by 3 and mounted them on a 4 by 6 card of pattern paper, and then added the lesson and the embellishment right on top so that they all share one box. But then sometimes that also meant that then I had a 4 by 6 photo that wouldn't have a box opposite. So in that case, if it was a photo where I could write or embellish straight on top of the picture in some of the dead space of the image, I did that. So this is a 4 by 6 photo, but the lesson is right on top, and there's no coordinating box that spreads that lesson over 2 pockets. It's all there in one. So that's the 3 different ways that I made the entries. So once I had got that kind of working and I'd plotted out what was going where, everything else came together really quickly. You'll see that I streamlined the supplies a little bit more than what I had selected in the preparation video. So in the preparation, I'd shown you a few different washi tapes, and in the end I used the same washi tape throughout the whole project, this turquoise one. And I just really liked how using just one really brought everything together, and where there were a lot of different colors involved, it gave me something that would be constant all the way through. Other embellishments that appear over and over are the yellow twine and the wood veneer shapes in either hearts or arrows. And usually either the wood or the twine, and sometimes both, are stapled, which I used the tiny attacher, which is a tiny little stapler that will go through quite a lot of different things. It'll go through twine, it'll go through wood veneer, no trouble. So everything is still following that same pattern. There's just one oddball here, that this print is 3.5 by 3.5 rather than 3 by 3, because it was a 4 by 6 photo, but the print came out a little bit wrong and it wasn't completely 4 by 6. So rather than reprint it, I just cropped it down to what looked nice, and that was a 3.5 inch square. So same thing here, and I'm just alternating. Sometimes I'm using a photo, or sometimes using 3 4 by 6 photos on the same page, but also sometimes just mixing that up so that you get some 4 by 6 photos and some smaller squares. And this was an interesting type. This happened a few days in my book, where basically the photos are both from the same day. These two pictures are taken at the same event, but in my notebook, my learning sometimes can be a bit delayed. So going to this event gave me this lesson, but the next day, thinking back about the event, and I'd bought a few tiny little handmade things and was looking up the people that made them and things like that, actually that learning then carried on for a second day. So although the photos are actually taken both on the 15th, the lesson is the 15th and the 16th, two different lessons. And I had a couple things like that happened. It's handy to know if you're looking through your photos and have some gaps and you're wondering how could you make that work. Sometimes you can get more than one lesson out of a day's activities, as it were. And this spread uses the same ideas, but I do have one oddball here, and it was something that made me learn, when I was putting the album together, made me learn a little bit, and that's that I tend, not always, it's not a hard and fast rule, but I tend to put more embellishment on happy, celebrate-y type things, and when the lessons are a bit more down or sad or challenging, I tend to keep the embellishment more simple. And in this case, this was a lesson that was really hitting hard, and I was doubting it even as I wrote it down, and I ended up with this extra box, and I decided I would leave it really plain and simple and just add in this extra caption to show that this lesson was kind of on my mind even more than one day. Now, as I get to this page, I'm going to take you through one of the entries, and then on the next page again. So this is how I started when I did my plotting. I did it all with just Post-it notes and noting what size the photo was and where the lesson would go. So this lesson will go on this card with this 4 by 6 photo. And then sometimes it happens that everything will kind of coordinate on one page. So in this case, I had 3 of these little labels, and I allocated them each to one of these boxes. And you can see here, when I was plotting out, I spread the labels all through the album and put them in the different pockets so that I would know that I had enough to make everything even. I didn't want to get to, say, the 25th and run out of something and end up with a bit of awkward spacing. So I had 3 of these and 3 4 by 6 photos, so I'm going to use each of them in the same way. So I layered some washi tape in a corner that has some empty space, and then this label sticker, and the label sticker will have the date written on it. Just grab my pen. And keep in mind, if you're watching in America, that we write our dates the other way around. So sometimes people get a little worried that I've forgotten, but this is the way that we write them here, so please don't panic. And then on each one, I just took some of the yellow twine and stapled it to the close edge. And then cut this a little bit shorter. I've done it a bit too long. So that's how quickly the 4 by 6 photo cards can come together. And now all 3 of those coordinate nicely over the page. And I need to take my facing box here and add my lesson. And I can see the sorts of things. Now these aren't matching, but they have things in common. So each of them has the wood veneer heart stapled on top. They each have a little bit of the glitter thickers, and they each have this washi tape at the bottom. Then on most of my lessons, I mix my handwriting in with the letter stickers that I've chosen, and I stayed pretty close to these same letter stickers. I brought the thickers in just a tiny little bit, just here and there, but they're not on every entry by a long shot. But I started with these 3 alphabets, and they weren't all none of them were brand new sheets. I'd used some letters on each of them. So you can see that some are more spent than others now, but I have used a lot of vowels. I've got 2 A's here and no E's in either lower or uppercase, out of several on this one as well. But by having a few different alphabets, it meant that I could just keep spelling and I didn't have to stop and panic. And my lesson when I'm using letter sheets like this is don't get to a word and say, oh, I'm only going to have 1 E left. I can't spell this now. Go ahead and use it. Use it all the way to the end of that letter, and just then go on to the next sheet. So I still have plenty of E's here. I can spell whatever I need to spell, and that way I am actually getting to sheets, getting the most from that sheet by not being paranoid and thinking, oh, I need to leave one of something. So just make it work. All right, so I'll figure out what I can spell here. Pause just for a second so I can get that written down there and show you how that all comes together. So here's how simple that was. I've just added my lettering, choosing the alphabet that could still spell that word. I wanted to add in a little of the sparkle, so I had some brackets I could put around that word. And then I had the label that I had in that pocket and the wood veneer heart stapled through the middle. Really, really simple. And then when you put all that together, it's not too plain because there's actually quite a lot going on the page. You don't feel like you have to cram everything into one 4x6 card. And some are more embellished than others. The ones that have smaller photos tend to look a little bit busier, but I like the break, and I like how the plainness of the simpler cards makes you look more toward the photo and not just focus on the embellishment. So that's how I worked with the 4x6 photos. Let's have a look at this last page, and I have 2 more left here to show you. So this is a 4x6 without a corresponding box, so that means the lesson's going to go right on top of the photo. So I tend to start that with the washi tape and a label. So just wrap that around and then take the label and add that on top, and then I'll take the heart and the twine, because those are the embellishments that I've used on pretty much every page. So to do the circle version, you take the heart and adhere it first. I can either do that with the stapler or just with normal adhesive. So this time I'll do it with normal adhesive, and then loop the twine into a circle that will go around the heart. It takes a few times to get the size of the loops quite right, but eventually we get there. And then just hold it over the top and take the stapler and go to one of the spots where there's all the layers of the twine so you can get it all at once with one staple. And that way I have the little twine circle around the heart. And then I'll just add in my lesson here. And sometimes I add the date on a separate sticker, or sometimes I leave the date off because they do go one box at a time, so you can easily tell what date it really was. But I'll just write my lesson in here and then put that back in the pocket. Really quick and easy. And to show you one last type of card I made, so this is one with a 3-inch square print. So I would take this and adhere it on one side or the other, then take my tape and run a horizontal strip that connects the photo to the edge of the paper. And then look for other horizontal elements that I can include here. So I have a date sticker that I can include. And I have a couple of those stickers left. So let's see. From this sheet where I used the heart, I have an arrow, a flower, and a mushroom. I think I'll go with this little flower. And when I start to layer up quite so many embellishments, it's handy to use a pop dot here and there just to add a little bit of dimension to the layers. And I can run twine in a straight line and just staple either end rather than the loop. So that way I'll have 2 circles on the diagonal and 2 straight lines on the diagonal, which you could do with lots of planning, but in this case, I'll be honest, it's not a lot of planning. It's just happy coincidence in looking across. And I'll go ahead and use my stickers and my pen to finish out the lesson there. And perhaps let's see if there's a heart that would fit in the middle of this flower. That's a bit too small. Sometimes that sort of idea works and sometimes it doesn't. You just have to look and see what's there. And no, I think all the rest of the hearts that I have remaining are way too narrow. So maybe I'll put it as a separate piece. Right, I'll add my stickers on top of that. So that's how simple my process was for each card. It was just a case of taking a few minutes per card to add the photo, the writing, and some repeated embellishment. And limiting my supplies and just using what I'd put in that first basket really helped it all come together. When I got to the end, I had 2 boxes left, so I used those 2 boxes to kind of draw a close to the project, one with a little bit of journaling to explain, and then just the end type card that in smaller print says for this year, for the idea that this sort of project would then repeat every year. And I've mentioned in the journaling that it's something that I've done several years, and I think that giving myself a little note like that then makes it make a little bit more sense in my album rather than a mini book. So I hope that no matter when you want to work on this project, you'll be able to have it all come together without a lot of stress or worry. I really enjoyed keeping it quite simple, and I like the fact that this year it will go in my 12 by 12 album and won't be something separate, so that it'll be something that you'll be able to see along with all my other pages for the year. So thank you very much for watching, and don't forget, all of the materials are always available at any time. You can work on this project at any time of the year, and it includes your membership for as many years as you would like to participate. So if you want to join us again, I'll see you in September 2013, and I'll give you a little email a little bit in advance to just remind you in August that it's coming up, and you can join us if you like, and maybe invite a friend or just join everybody that you've met so far. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again sometime.